Hello Year 8. Today we're going to carry on the theme of looking at where our food comes from. If you remember last lesson we looked at food miles and how far our food travels to get from where it's grown to get to our plate. Well, today we're going to look at something called Fairtrade. Okay, so Fairtrade is a system where farmers and growers in third world countries, in poorer countries, get paid a decent price for what they produce. And you might have seen the Fairtrade logo on things like bananas, on bars of chocolate, on coffee, tea, cooking, cocoa. So basically what it means is that very often a whole community will get together and they will then sell their work together, harvest their products, sell their products and just get a better price for it, and then some of the money goes back into the community, so they get things like better sanitation, education for their children, rather than living in poverty. So today we're going to make use of Fairtrade products, and I'm going to use cocoa and I've got some chocolate chips. If you can't get a Fairtrade, don't worry. So first thing you need is a muffin tray and 6 muffin cases. So you haven't got a muffin tray, but you've got what we call a patty tin, which is what you use to make mince pies and fairy cakes in. By all means use that. But you just need fairy cake cases, and you'll probably need between 9 and 10. So just put that to one side, put your oven on. It needs to be on regular 6 or 200 degrees C. And then prepare any fillings that you're going to use. So I've grated the zest of an orange, and I've weighed out 50 grams of chocolate chips. Now I'm going to do chocolate flavoured muffins, and for that I'm going to use cocoa. Now in the recipe it says to dissolve the cocoa in water, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to put mine straight into the bowl. But what I have done is I've increased the amount of milk just slightly. So instead of using 110 mils, I'm going to use 125, because when you use cocoa you get a little bit of a dry mixture. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sieve my dry ingredients. So the recipe says 150 grams of self-raising flour, but because I'm using cocoa, I've taken out 2 teaspoons, which is 25 grams. So if you just use 125 grams of self-raising flour and then 25 grams of cocoa, and make sure it is cocoa. It can't be drinking chocolate highlights, anything like that, because that's got sugar in it, it'll spoil your mixture. So you put the cocoa and the flour through the sieve and get all the little lumps out. You're going to add half a teaspoon of baking powder, about that much, and that just gives a little bit of an extra lift, a bit of a better rise. And you're going to put 75 grams of caster sugar. It needs to be caster sugar really, otherwise the texture will be too crunchy. And you just sieve that, just because occasionally you get little lumps in there. And then to the bowl you're going to add 75 grams of butter or margarine and chop that up with a knife so it goes into smaller pieces. Try to have it at room temperature, and that way it will rub in far easier than if you've got it straight from the fridge. So just cut that up a little bit, and then with your fingertips just rub it in. Now because I've put my cocoa into the bowl, it is a little bit messy and your hands get a bit dirty, but you can wash them. I just think it's an easier way to do it. Whichever way, you'll get chocolate muffins. So you rub this in till you get breadcrumbs, and you've done that before, so it's quite easy to do. Just keep lifting up the flour and the fat and rubbing it between your finger and your thumb tips. Just keep rubbing it in, and eventually you'll get a mixture that resembles breadcrumbs. And when it's at that stage, you're ready to go on to the next part of the method. Okay, so I'm nearly there. I've got dirty fingers, but I'll live with that for a minute. So when you've got your breadcrumbs, the best test to do is just to give it a shake, and if you've got any lumps on the top, just break those down. Okay, so I'll show you my mixture. So there's my mixture, breadcrumbs. Okay, so the next thing I'm going to do, just going to give my hands a quick wash. Okay, right, so the next thing I'm going to do, I'm going to add my flavouring ingredients to the bowl. So that's my grated orange zest. So if you remember, the orange zest is the very, very outside of the orange, and that's where the flavour oils are. So make sure that you only use the zest. Underneath it's white, and that's quite bitter. Next thing you're going to do is you're going to break your egg into your milk. So measure your milk out first, that's really important. So I've got I used 125 mils just because I'm using cocoa. If you're just making ordinary plain ones, you'll just need 110. Break your egg in. This is a large egg because that's all I ever buy really, but it doesn't matter whether you use a medium one. And then just give that a good mix. Okay. Now the next stage is really important. What you need to do is make a well in the base of your bowl. Okay, pour all that mixture in, and then you've got to beat it really, really quickly. Stir it all in first and then give it a real good beat, and that's to get all the flour and everything incorporated in. Okay, now when you make muffins, you're producing a batter, and it's got to stay sloppy. Okay, so that's the sort of mixture you're going to end up with. And then with a tablespoon, now this bit is messy, you can actually pour this mixture back into your jug, or you can just do what I'm doing. And you're basically going to fill your muffin cases about 3/4 of the way up, which probably is a bit different than you used to make when you make cupcakes or fairy cakes, because you generally don't put as much in. But with muffins, you can fill them more or less to the top of the case. What I would suggest is any mess that you've made on your tray, you actually wipe that off before it goes into the oven, otherwise that will burn. You must have this as a liquid though, going into your case. If it's thick, it won't rise, right? And it won't form a peak on the top. So when you make muffins, one of the things you're looking for is that it cracks, it peaks and it cracks on the top, and that's the sign of a good muffin. Whereas if you did that and you made cupcakes or fairy cakes, we'd probably knock marks off. But with this, we're looking for that peak. Okay, and then they go into the oven. I'll just wipe my hands. They go into the oven and they will take about 20 minutes. I'll need to wipe that bit off there. They go into the oven 20 minutes, and you're looking for them to be well risen, peaked on the top and cracked, and when you press, they spring back. Okay, so put those in the oven. Put my timer on, and then I'll show you what they look like when they're cooked. So these are some that I made earlier. Okay, so they're well risen. They've got the typical crack on the top, and that's because the liquid has forced the mixture to rise and it cracks. Okay, but that won't happen if you've got a really thick mixture. And then just leave those to cool and then enjoy. Okay, there you go.